Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the School of Hard Knocks. So excited that you're here with us again today. I am really excited to introduce Sammie. Sammie and I actually just recently met. I think it was in like an entrepreneurial group or something like that, which is where I'm coming across a lot of really cool women and I'm thriving off of it. So, welcome to the podcast, Sammie. So excited to have you here with us today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Yeah, I've really enjoyed meeting people on Facebook groups. You get to meet some really awesome people.
And people don't think about like groups like that either. I think most people think like I'm joining a group to get something out of it, like a DIY or like a cooking, like a recipe or something like
Hmm.
that. But when you actually go into like a real open group, like a women's group, you really start like finding your people, like the people that you click with and connect with. I've made some really good connections myself.
Yeah, definitely. It's really amazing.
Yeah. Well, Sammie, go ahead and, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about, I know you've been through some stuff. So tell us a little bit about your history.
So I have definitely been through some stuff, and it's kind of been like my early childhood was pretty good, other than, like my parents got divorced and they would fight, and that, like, I was sensitive to that. So, I'd go like hide in a closet, but, nothing major when I was younger. And then I got to my teenagers and I had a stepdad that ended up sexually abusing me. And that was, I think the hardest part of that was like beforehand because he came into my life around when I was 9, probably. And before I guess, developed, we had an amazing relationship. We were very close. We had a lot of the same things in common. So we would always go on bike rides together and go to the library together to get books and stuff like that. So we had a really close relationship. And that also like contributed to why I dealt with it for so long because with some of the stuff, it was smaller things that I was just uncomfortable with. So it's like, okay, is there something wrong with me, like not wanting this and not being okay with this? Like, is this how a dad is supposed to be? Is I actually don't know my biological father, and my dad that I would consider my dad, he met my mom when she was like 6 months pregnant with me. And then he was in my life throughout my whole life until he passed away. Um, so yeah, I definitely have a lot, I've had to deal with a lot of issues around male figures and authority figures in my life because of that. On top of everything that was going on with my stepdad, he had my mom convinced as a pathological liar.
Mhm.
And they took me out of school. I was homeschooled, and we were like a very religious family. So we went to church and stuff like that. But even with that, like I couldn't go sit with the youth group. I had to be with my parents and couldn't go off like you'd figure that'd be the one place like, oh, you're safe here. You can go off with
Right.
people here. But yeah, even that I was not allowed to. So I think that was actually really the hardest part of all of it was the isolation and then the constantly questioning, like, okay, am I bad? Is there something wrong with me that this is happening to me? Am I just making a bigger deal out of this than I should? And then, I homeschooled myself, homeschooled my little brother, took care of my baby sister, and then did all the chores. As soon as I turned 16, I got a job because I could not wait to get out of the house for any reason whatsoever. That was my escape. I loved my first job. I worked at a Crystal's Hamburgers.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I worked 39 hours a week because I was homeschooled, but labor laws. So I worked
Yeah.
every bit of time that I could. And then, but yeah, I'd have to have dinner cooked before I went to work and come home, do the dishes, and get up and do it all again the next day. So I really felt like I was living the life of a single parent with no freedom whatsoever.
I mean, and I
Uh,
could totally see that too. And that's the really interesting thing for, if anybody hasn't experienced, like, there's all different levels of childhood trauma, and
mhm,
I went through my own bout of childhood trauma with my dad being and a drug abuser and an alcoholic, and he was abusive to my mom and all of my siblings. So I'm the oldest of nine. But, even to this day, my dear grandmother, she's going to be 95 or 96 years old. She will always
Mm-hmm.
in conversation say, "You were always the second mom." And it's
Mm-hmm.
so interesting because it's so relatable to me when you say that, because I mean, I knew how to like make food by the time I was 8. I was in charge of watching all of these kids that were all different ages. And it wasn't because my mom was out doing things she shouldn't be doing, but she would like cater to my dad and bring him where he
Yeah.
wanted to go. And like, if he wanted to get dropped off somewhere or go fishing or whatever that situation is,
Mm-hmm.
like that's just, I was responsible for it. And then it
Yeah.
is really isolating, right? Because you feel like
Mm-hmm.
your whole childhood doesn't feel like a childhood.
Yeah.
I totally
Yeah,
understand that.
definitely. And then like that responsibility just, I mean, that I didn't know how to be fun at
Yeah.
all for a little while. And then when I finally did get out on my own, I went wild because I was
hmm
like, oh, I can do things now. Yay.
Right. Right.
And I went off the deep end. And then I think also like my stepdad was military and my mom just kind of I think there's a lot of generational trauma in my family with relationships and things like that. So, I try not to hold that against her, but she's just always kind of needed to be in a relationship. And she's like whatever person she ends up being with. So, like with my dad that she was with before, she was very like relaxed and lenient because that's how he was. And then with my stepdad, he was military and like he wanted to be a drill sergeant but decided not to become one because they had just come out with the stress cards where you could pull out this card and make the drill sergeant stop screaming in your face. And
Oh,
he thought that was ridiculous because you can't do that in war. And that's
yeah.
like the only reason he never became one. So, he is a complete hard ass. But
hmm
yeah, so everything was just like really strict on top of that. And I have a genetic disease that affects my vision and hearing, which he had perfect vision. So it was impossible for him to understand, like, I did, I cleaned the kitchen and I wiped the counters down, but I missed like all of this stuff over here. And so, yeah, it was like he would put dirty dishes on my bed and stuff like that because they were still
hmm
dirty and he was fed up with it. And like I got where he was coming from because he had been to war and lived overseas and had to deal with fighting his for like flies for his food and living in, not so great conditions. So I got it, but it's like I can't help it over here.
No, and
So,
I understand that too, because since I have started the podcast, this is the first time I've been open in my life about my childhood trauma. Like
hmm
I held on to this for such a long time. I didn't want my parents, first of all, to be hurt, right?
yeah,
Like I wanted to protect my parents, even though they didn't do the greatest job protecting me. And I
hmm
didn't want my siblings to hear things
yeah,
or learn things that they didn't know about from the past. So,
yeah,
since I've been so open about the things that have happened in my life, one of the questions that I've been getting is, my dad, I don't know how long you've been following me for, but my husband and I just got done taking care of my dad for 3.5 years.
yeah,
He became a victim of a workplace shooting and had a traumatic brain injury. So a
hmm
lot of people were, how can you take care of your dad when he was the beginning of your school of hard knocks?
yeah,
And, first of all, I'm not who my dad was. I'm who my
hmm
dad was like wanting to be, but he was never given the opportunity. So
yeah,
my dad grew up horribly. He grew up in an abusive household. He was called names. He was beaten. He was degraded, demoralized, like the whole entire situation. So I
hmm
understand where you're coming from because it doesn't excuse what my dad did. It doesn't excuse what your stepdad did, but there's like a reasoning for it. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It doesn't make it right. It doesn't excuse it, but it's not like this. How did somebody become a serial killer when they grew up in a completely perfect, how did that brain change happen?
yeah,
It's like when people are going through trauma, their brains change. And unfortunately, back in like the 70s, 80s, even 90s, people didn't have these devices to just pick up and say, "Hey, chat, can you tell me where I can go and get help with my mental illness that I have?"
Yeah.
They had to humble themselves, open a phone book, go to the
Hmm.
yellow pages, like walk into a place that wasn't as easy. So it
Yeah.
doesn't excuse it, but there's like a reasoning for it that makes a little bit of sense.
Definitely. And there was so much more stigma around mental health and things like that
Hmm.
then too, especially for men. And really like
Yeah.
looking at it that way and seeing that like just in my everyday life today too, that like that is their issues and their problems, like the way that people are reacting and acting 90% of the time it's because of something they've been through.
Yeah.
And by realizing that, it just makes it so much easier to have compassion because I'm like, okay, well, where was I at one point? Like, what kind of person was I being at one point when I didn't know all the things I know now? There's so many people that haven't had the chance to like access the knowledge that we have yet and start their healing journey. So I really try to remember those things. And a big thing for me is like when we heal, those around us heal.
Yeah.
So my healing and me being a light and showing the transformation that you can have no matter what you've been through is just like that that's healing my family, whether they're right here seeing it or not, because like we obviously I don't talk to my stepdad, but
Hmm.
it's still like my siblings see that and I feel like it still has an impact. So,
It does. I mean, you became like a generational breaker.
hmm.
Right? Like that curse. My cousin, I just invited her to come to my church for the first time this last Sunday. She was looking for a church to come to, and there was somebody that was up talking. We were celebrating the 10-year anniversary of the church. And so a lot of us got to get up and say our testimony. So
Hmm.
somebody was giving their testimony, and I turned around because she was sitting behind me, and I put my knuckles out to knuckle bumper, and I'm like, generational curse breakers, because we've both done it, and
Hmm.
almost all of my siblings have as well. I mean, we are not like this common statistic where, all of us have gone down a bad path. No,
Yeah.
does some of us? Yeah. My one brother is in recovery for probably the fifth time after using meth for over 2 decades.
Hmm.
He's been clean for 2 years, though.
Yeah.
My other brother can't shake alcoholism. He's
Hmm.
currently sitting in jail right now and has been for over a year.
Yeah.
Some of us make it out, some of us don't, but that breaking those generational curses, and like you said, I love that you said that, it helps people around us see healing is possible. It
Hmm.
takes work, but it's possible,
Yeah.
So now you are a teenager or you're an adult and you're out on your own and you're like, oh, it's time to live. I don't have anybody to tell me
Yes.
what to do. So what happened?
So I eventually got away from my stepdad and my mom, and my dad got custody of me, and things were like really good for a little while. I got to be a teenager for a little while. Um, but I had those authority issues. So, I
Mhm.
wasn't allowed to go spend the night with boys, and I didn't like that. So I decided I was going to go move in with a friend. And my dad was very big on, you make your bed and you lie in it. Your decisions have consequences, and that's what you're going to deal with. And like he knew what I'd been through, so he knew just pushing wasn't going to really have an impact. It was just going to send me back to where I was. So things were fine with that for a little while, and I actually that really started my healing journey because I went from living with my friend to moving in with um, some friends of her parents. The person, she did Reiki, and it's a type of Japanese energy healing. And is she did it on me, and is I felt so free. Felt like a weight had been lifting off my shoulders, and it was really amazing. And she knew so many things about me that like no one knew about me. So it was just a really incredible experience. And I ended up moving in with them, and I really started doing like inner child work and really working on myself and learning about the things I'd been through and how to start working towards actually being better and not just ignoring it. But I ended up messing up that situation, and I then went from like doing really good to going from party to party. I just like bounced around from house to house and from guy to guy because I had a lot of self-worth issues. My stepdad like legally adopted me. He paid money to make me his child. So that made that hit on like a whole different level because like, okay, like, where is my worth if you like literally paid to make me your kid and then still did this to me? So I had a
Yeah.
lot of issues with that, and I bounced around from party to party and guy to guy. I ended up getting on meth for a while, and I eventually started doing like nude modeling and stuff like that, and got into escorting. And that was it wasn't a horrible experience because I actually like worked with decent agencies and everything. Like, some people have really bad stories about it and ended up in bad situations. I luckily didn't, but it definitely wasn't a good experience either. Like when you're going to go see these people to pick you to do their work, if they're like telling you everything that's wrong with you. And like I got this weird tan because I went to a nude beach to go tanning and I forgot to put sunblock in some places.
Oh no.
And I had a really weird tan. And like the things they said about it were just so, so mean. It was shocking, really.
Yeah.
But, so it wasn't a productive situation. And of course, like that also had a lot of drugs in it. So I experimented with a lot of different things. Luckily, I never really got addicted to anything. I have very, very strong control issues. So I didn't like to be dependent on anything. And I think that's what kept me safe because I was like, no, you're not going to control me. I'm not going to be dependent on this because I'd party for like a week straight and then go out of town for 2 weeks for work and not touch anything at all. So it was kind of an on and off thing for a while. Um, Luckily, I ended up meeting my husband at 18, so I didn't stay down that path for very long. Um, when we first got together, I told him what I did, and I was like, don't ask me to quit because this is what I do. Like, if you have a problem with it, we don't need to be in a relationship. This is my life. You're not going to change it on me. And he was cool with it. And eventually I got to a place where I was like, I'm not cool with this anymore. Like, I really like you. I don't want to do this. I want this to be special, not just work.
Yeah.
So I got away from that. But I got pregnant 3 months after me and him got together, which was a lot. Me and him were very, very different people. Opposites attract, and we were very much opposite. Where I had a very sheltered religious childhood, he grew up the complete opposite. His parents were addicts and he was selling drugs at like 12, 13 years old to help keep the lights on in the house. So I ended up needing to move in with him because I got pregnant and he lived with his family. So that was like a culture shock experience because there was always yelling and chaos and hecticness, and it was just a mess. And yeah, and then I'm pregnant on top of that. So my hormones are crazy. And we didn't know how to be in a relationship. Both of us had had such messed up childhoods and been through so much stuff that we were just surviving next to each other, and hurting each other a lot because we didn't know how to be there for each other. We were both going through a hard experience. I was 18 and he was 21. And we barely knew each other when moving in together and having a kid. So we I mean, we really loved each other. Don't get me wrong, and we tried to be there for each other the best we could, but we really didn't know how. So
Mhm.
we put each other through a lot of stuff and hurt each other a lot, and definitely added to the trauma. Um, we at one point while I was pregnant, we're like living in a shed in a backyard. So it was just always chaos and struggle and like never-ending survival mode. And he we eventually moved in with a different part of his family that was a lot better. And that went well, but like at the same time, he didn't have goals and I had goals and I wanted more. So it was like always a fight with that for a while. So it was always like, oh, I'm gonna leave you because you don't want to do more and I want more than it. I don't just want to live with your family. So there was a lot of that that went on for a while. And eventually we got out on our own and started doing better. And I actually ended up messing up. I ended up cheating on him because I was probably around 22. And because of the childhood I had had and meeting him so young, I felt like I didn't have a life. I felt
Mhm.
like I had missed out on so much. I never had a normal relationship where you go out on dates. Like I've never experienced that where you just meet somebody and like you talk on the phone a little bit and then go out on a date. It was more like these crazy romances where we move in together or stay in a hotel together for a week or something like that. So
Right.
I felt like I had missed out, and my husband was working a lot and just not really there. And, it definitely wasn't the right way to deal with that. But yeah, that ended up leading to chaos, of course. Because he ended up finding out. But I mean, I didn't hide it very well. I don't think I was really trying to. I think ultimately I wanted things to change and to be better. We already had two kids at that point. I got pregnant with our second daughter shortly after our first. They're 18 months apart. So
Oh
everyone kept
yeah.
saying, she's moving out of the way for the next one. I'm like, no, y'all are lying. I'm not having another one. Next
Hmm.
thing I know, I'm pregnant again. So, yeah, when I cheated and everything ended up coming out, he got back in touch with his family. And, because he needed someone to be there for him. And they ended up calling my probation officer. I forgot to mention that part because it like wasn't really much of an effect for me. When I was 18, I had quit doing drugs for a while completely. And then it's probably like 3 or 4 months. And then a friend called me because they wanted to get some, and I'd been depressed because I like cut everyone out of my life. And I ended up going to jail that night because I went with them to go get drugs. And I just spent like a month in jail waiting to go to court. So, it's traumatic because I was like 18 and it sucked, but it wasn't a huge thing. It was more the probation afterwards that was really the effect of like, I'm a smaller person and I've always been, and I have acne. So I've always been accused of being on drugs, even when I wasn't. So going through that really affected me. But anyway, back to where I was in the story. When he called his parents, we had moved from Georgia to Louisiana to get away from his family. And I was on probation. And when we went to move, we were living in a hotel and like we gave a month notice to both of our jobs. I had to give a month notice to transfer my probation to another state. And his job decided to cut him down to 2 days a week. And I was a server. So his money paid for our hotel room. And we were like in one of the nice extended stay places. So it was kind of high. So we had to go ahead and go. And I didn't have time to transfer it. But I was like, it's okay. I'm on call in reporting. I'll just call in and pay every month. It'll be fine. And then I cheated and his family got mad. So they called and reported that I left the state. So I spent 3 years, I think, 2 years, probably 2 years. Um, Not really on the run because they weren't coming to get me. It was two states over, but just worried about what was going to happen because I had a warrant out for my arrest and all of that. And we ended up going through like a lot of really bad stuff after that happened. We helped someone and ended up losing our place to live from letting them come stay with us. And then we're supposed to all get a place together, and they took the money and left us with nowhere to go. So we were in a hotel again for a while that we really started working on a relationship. I ended up pregnant again. And we worked on ourselves so and we got through it and eventually got into a place and we're doing really, really good. And then I went to jail on Valentine's Day. So that that was really like heartbreaking because it's the most amazing we had ever been doing in our lives. Our relationship was in an amazing place. Like we had really not deeply started working on our stuff, like not from the past, but like working on our stuff as an adult and just really trying to be a better person and better for each other and our kids and everything. My oldest was like in kindergarten at this time, so they were still pretty young and everything. But yeah, when I went to jail, I ended up doing like 8 months. So we were in Louisiana where my family was, which was initially supposed to be a good thing, but my mom was it with the guy thing I said earlier, she had another guy and he was the center of the world, so she never had time for us. So he had like no one to really help him at all. Like in a state where he knew our coworkers, that's it, and 3 children. Our youngest was not even a year old yet. So he had to go back to his family. And they had been clean for a while. So I was hoping things were going to be okay. But they weren't at that point. And then they were like, here, this will make you feel better, and shoved a meth pipe in his face. So he got strung back out on knots. And that, yeah, I like didn't really get to talk to him the whole time I was in jail. Like he didn't have the money to put on the phone and stuff like that. So I didn't really have a clue what was going on. It's just probably a good thing because I probably would have been able to tell over the phone. And I would have been really worried about the kids. I already was, just knowing my experience from living with them. I was like, okay, like this is going to be bad. Do not want my kids there. And then when I got out, my husband tried to get me to get a place with them, which really blew my mind. I was like, are you kidding me? Like at that point, I was still in a blaming part of my life. So to me, it was their fault that I had just missed out on 8 months of my kid's life and my daughter's first birthday. So yeah, that was a lot. And I also, like when I got out to him being on drugs. They were in a hotel room, like not even an extended stay, just a regular hotel room with 2 beds. And he expected me to stay there with his dad, his stepmom, and then it'd be me, him, and the 3 kids. And I'm like, yeah, no, I can't do this. Not at all. So he ended up lying to me. I mean, I was in denial. I knew, but I was in denial. But he lied to me about continuing to do meth for a year and a half after that. We almost lost the kids. I really probably should have left, but like I've always operated from this place of compassion, even with everything that had happened to me. And it's like, okay, well, really, like, what chance has he had? Like, who has shown him that he can be more? He grew up in Atlanta, like deep in the city, in the ghetto. So he didn't go to good schools. He didn't have teachers that believed in him and encouraged him. So I really wanted to be that person to do that for him because I'd seen that he could be better than that. He was clean before. And yeah, he was never amazing at, being who I needed him to be, but I loved him. So, I stuck around and helped him work through it. Luckily, he did eventually get through it. It took time and it was very hard to get through. There is definitely physical abuse and emotional abuse and all of it. And because of it, my kids suffered a lot of trauma too that I shouldn't have let them witness. That's another area where I'm breaking generational curses and
Hmm.
generational trauma. That's definitely a big goal for me and him now. But yeah, we ended up, part of it was getting away from his family again, because at that point we were back in Georgia around his family, and it just really, they're enablers. So
Yeah.
he really has a hard time doing better when he's around them because if they're not doing the drugs, then they're just like, oh, it's okay. You've had a hard life. I understand. It's like, I get that, but no, you don't. When I'm having a child services case going on right now, you don't walk in the room on him doing drugs and not say anything to me. Like, that's messed up in my opinion.
Right.
So, yeah, we moved to Arizona, and that is when everything started changing. For a while, it was really hard because it did not go as planned. we moved out here and we eventually, initially, like we were going to wait a little longer and let Sean get a job and my husband and like be more settled out here before we came out here. But I was really not doing good mentally then and could not handle being away from him. Like, I went from my family to him basically. So when I'm going through stuff, it's hard to be away from him. But
Yeah.
we ended up making the decision to just go ahead and come out here. And with the way the job market is out here, we thought it'd be so much easier to get on our feet and everything. And it wasn't at first because even though he had gotten clean, he still wasn't necessarily doing all the things he needed to do. He was still, I guess he still needed time to work on himself a little more. So he wasn't working like I needed him to. And a lot of things were still on me. And then I lost my dad, and that completely broke me because that was like the only person I felt like I had other than my husband. And at that point, my husband was that most dependable person. I didn't feel like I could trust him with my life and my kid's life and things like that, So it's like I lost my lifeline, the one person that I knew always had my back. And so that kind of like sent me over the edge. And I ended up not like I lost my job, which never really happened to me before. And then I started not being able to keep a job. And luckily, he realized, like in the very beginning, that I was breaking. I was
Mhm.
done at that point. So he stepped up really, really quickly, which was amazing. I was like really worried because I'm over here trying not to crash and burn and failing at it. And he stepped up majorly. So I was able to actually work on myself and take a break and breathe, I guess, really, because before that, it was always just, okay, I have to keep surviving. I have to keep going. I don't have time to feel this. I don't have time to get better. I have to be a mom. I have to work two jobs, whatever it was. But yeah, I couldn't keep a job and I was just so angry and so miserable. And then I started ruining all of my relationships with my kids and with my husband because I just got to the point where I I don't think I really saw any goodness anymore. It was just like all of that stuff piled on top of each other constantly. It's like, okay, when do I get a break?
Yeah.
When is it my turn to have something good happen to me? And don't get me
Mhm.
wrong, I've been super blessed and super lucky because things could have been so much worse in so many situations. I definitely have put myself in a lot of really bad places. And I'm lucky I never lost my kids entirely, and we've had so much help along the way from, Christmas angel trees and different things like that. So, there has been goodness, but it was hard to see with all the other crap that have been piled on me. So I ended up finding finally, because I'd been in therapy and taking medication and all this stuff, but it wasn't really getting the job done. It wasn't really working. And I eventually found this place that dealt with um, pain, mental health, and addiction. And they did a lot of somatic healing. They weren't just prescribing people medication. And it was like you go for 4 days a week, 3 hours a day. And I didn't really need the addiction side of it, but that helped me to understand what my husband had went through on a
Mhm.
different level. It helped me to have more compassion for that. And really, because to me, I'm just like, okay, we're not important enough for you to put that down. Like, what's wrong with you? So, I was
Yeah.
making it worse because in my mind, I had always been able to put things down when I wanted to. So why can't you? Why aren't we enough for you to be able to do that? So that really helped me work through a lot of the resentment with him because I mean, still to this day, I'm probably working on some of that because not only was it everything that I went through with him, but when I wasn't there to be a parent to our kids, I should have been able to depend on him to keep them safe, and I wasn't. And we're dealing with a lot and trying to help them work through their stuff because of everything they went through. And they went from having their own shelf in the refrigerator and the cabinet to like getting in trouble for going and taking a yogurt because it wasn't theirs to take. So, just even all the little things like that, it was a lot for them, especially at such a young age. So that really helped me work through a lot of the pain with him and start forgiving him a lot, which moved a lot because I think that's where a lot of the anger was. It was just like, you weren't there for me when I needed you. Like, I couldn't even get a phone call. And then later, when he went to jail, he was lucky. He got like a work detail and like got to go out. And I bought him pizza and soda and he got to give the kids a hug one day. So that's the part that makes me cry. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so that was like, there's a lot around that because it's like I did so much for him and put so much into it. And then like, oh, well, you weren't there for me when I really needed it.
Yeah.
So, and also, just him finally stepping up and being who I
Mhm.
needed him to be at that point really helped to work through it too. And like I said, that's still something that we're working on, but he is now in this place where it's like, oh, well, you're allowed to be upset about that. And that is a pattern interrupt in itself. And I'm just like, wait, I'm allowed to be mad at you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm not mad anymore. We're good. So we've done a lot of work on ourselves and as a couple, as parents, as everything. Now, he is a chef and he's been clean 5 years. He just got a
Yay.
promotion. So it's really amazing because like both of us have complete opposite stories, but equally really, really hard. And like if you look at the statistics of people that have gone through what the things we've gone through, like there's no way we would be where we are in life right now.
Yeah.
And it's just really incredible. Like I know anybody can make it and change and like start having a better life just because of what I've experienced. And that's why all of that's so close to my heart now.
Yeah. Wow. My whole mind is like, I've been doing this for only 6 months, but I've talked to a lot of people. Your story is definitely one of the most powerful stories that I've heard. And it's relatable to me in so many ways from the things that I carried from childhood into adulthood. Like
Mhm.
I can tell that, I am also a person who likes to be in control of everything. I don't even like being the passenger in a vehicle,
Yeah.
like that to me. And it's like, some people are like, oh my gosh, your wife is like kind of, and it's like, but you don't understand, like, when you spend, my parents didn't get divorced till I was 16. So when
Hmm.
you spend 16 years of your life under thumb, under control, being told, I mean, not just basic kid things that you can't do, but like things that are normal that a kid should be
Yeah.
able to do. Like now as an adult, I just had this conversation with my brother the other day when I watch some of my nieces and nephews because this generational curse has been broken. And when I
Hmm.
watch them having fun, being loud, running around, I was like, yeah, never. My
Yeah.
dad would have been like, sit the F down right now. We were
Yep.
very much the children are meant to be seen and not heard. His friends would be like, you guys have such well behaved children. We weren't well behaved children. We were scared children.
Yeah.
There's such a difference between, a kid that can do, my niece is in my office. I had like new makeup and she's just ripping everything open. And I'm like, I would have never went into somebody else's house and touched anything because I would
Yeah.
have got my ass kicked 110%. Like,
Yes.
there's no way, so a lot of that stuff that I've carried in, but oh my gosh, Sammie, like, I have to tell you, first of all, I'm so proud of you. I
Thank
am
you.
so proud of you. What an incredible journey that you have been on. And so beautiful the fight that you have, the determination, the knowing that there's something bigger for you out there, the wanting to break the generational curses so that you can be a better mom for your children. Like, what an just extremely powerful. account of you've gone through a lot of stuff, a lot more things than like an average person goes through. It was continued on for an extremely long period of time, and
Yeah.
all different levels of trauma, things that people can't even relate to.
Hmm.
Like I mean, even thinking about having to put yourself out there to be an escort, how different that is, that people are like, what is that, like, Pretty Woman type of stuff, like, does that really happen? It really
Yeah.
happens, and to make it through that and be safe, first of all, to not have had anything bad happen to you. Like you said, you heard like some of the horror stories that other women had gone through, and you weren't the one. Like,
Yeah.
my gosh, girl, you have got so much power and such a bright future ahead of you. I'm excited to find out, because now you're a mental health coach and you help other people with trauma, right? Is that what you do?
Yes.
Okay, so how did you get started doing that, and how do you use everything that you just told me as a way to be able to help other people?
So really, it kind of started from I really not being able to keep a job initially. Was like, I want to start a business. What am I going to do? And it wasn't even just not about, okay, I don't know how I'm going to make money now, but I hit my 30s. And like when I was younger, I was always very goal oriented and very motivated. And I made like straight A's and very smart and always had goals, always wanted to do big things. I wanted to be an architect for a really long time.
Oh, I love
Um,
that.
but I was very particular about like what college I would go to and everything like that. So I was like, okay, that's not an option now. I'm 30. I'm not going to do that. That's going to be too much work. I'm not moving back to the South because I wanted to go to Auburn or Savannah College of Art and Design in Georgia. And I did not want to go back to Alabama or Georgia, either one. I love
Mhm.
Arizona. It's amazing out here. I have thrived out here. But yeah, so initially my business actually started as making essential oil rollers with crystals and herbs, and they have like different intentions or self-love or whatever, combining the aromatherapy and the oils and the crystals purposes. Um, but I've like always just had this sense that like I wanted to use everything that I went through to help people. And I remember like even at 17 feeling that way. Like with everything that happened with my stepdad, I was like, I don't want this to be for nothing. I don't want to just have gone through that for nothing. And then when I was very into church and like really like I had my own Bible study and everything when I was going to church, I really tried to go all in with all of it. I remember one person telling me that they saw me speaking to multitudes and like being on stages and talking to people. And then like later on, I completely walked away from faith of any kind and was like, yeah, that person is crazy. What are you talking about? And then I had to deal with like my relationship to how I looked at religion and God and all of that and like kind of come up with my own version of spirituality. But that ties into all my coaching too. But yeah, I really wanted to do something that was meaningful. I was like, okay, these oil rollers are cool, but like, what am I really doing here? Like, this isn't doing anything. And I have all this stuff, like, I can use this. And I ended up finding this free spiritual life coaching course online. And I took that and I was like, I can do this. Like, I like this. I could be good at this. I could, like, I've gone through so much things. I could figure out how to do this. And so I started looking into more of that and learning more. And just that really like amplified my healing journey so, so much. Like I was already doing better and knew the right things and stuff like that. But I still struggled, of course. And on my journey to learning all the different things I did, I found more things that worked that I ended up combining with what I was doing and just like, oh, well, this is actually, this has made it better. This like added to it. So I'm actually glad that my business did not take off when I wanted it to and like I
Mhm.
wanted it to because my initial plan was nowhere near what it is today. But yeah, it was really just like it came out of nowhere, really. I never had a plan to do anything like this or anything. And then now it's like eventually I want to be a speaker. And I don't know where that came from at all because I'm actually kind of an introvert and really shy. Like I would get nervous presenting in front of class at
Yep.
school. So I'm like, okay, how am I going to do this? I guess the how doesn't matter. We'll do it. We'll figure it out.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was just all of this, like, I was so angry and I didn't like myself. And I had found a way to like change that completely and change the way I looked at everything in my life. I remember the first time I tried to do a manifestation exercise, I said, write about my dream day. Why would I do this? Like, I'm never going to be able to have this. I don't have the money to have my dream day. I'm never going to be able to make the money to have my dream day. And now, like I just said in that lesson, the how doesn't matter. I'm going to make
Yeah.
it happen. I'm going to have it all. And that's the way I see life now. And the way I see challenges is like in a chance for expansion and to be the person I want to be instead of, oh, this sucks. So I really just wanted to be able to help others find that because I was so miserable and just so hurt and tired. I'm like, if I can go through all of that, then I know other people can get better too. So I want to be a part of helping people get there. That and just like, I'm really disappointed in the mental health industry and how a lot of it works. And with my own journey, like I did not get the help I needed in the ways I needed. And sometimes I really didn't get treated the way I should have. And like my husband, he's a chef at a mental health place. It's an inpatient place. And like just the way they do things there, it really upsets me. Like how often these people have to check out, the type of food they're fed. I mean, it's not horrible food. The food's decent. I eat it. He brings it home to me. But, it's not healthy. It's not like
Yeah.
nutritious, like to
Hmm.
me, if you really want to help someone get better, you need to be having them physically active. You need to be having them eat healthy foods, a lot of veggies and light foods and things that are uplifting. And they're not doing that at all. So, and that's really common. And these people, they have to check out like every 7 to 14 days or something like that. How can you get out of survival mode living that way? It's
Right.
impossible. And I personally could not get better until I got out of survival mode. Not
Hmm.
entirely anyway. It was all, I tried so hard and tried to be motivated, tried to be disciplined and do all the things. And I knew the mindset stuff and all the stuff, but I still couldn't get it right. And then I get mad at myself and then I'd shame myself and feel guilty and not good enough. And I really feel like our mental health system kind of reiterates that and enforces that. So, and really trying to bring about a different way of looking at mental health and how we're approaching those things and everything, and really working on the survival mode key of it first, and knowing that like we need to have nervous system safety first, which a lot of people
Hmm.
don't entirely know what that means, but really just feeling safe in your body. When we're going through something, our body is usually where we experience that first, whether it's like tightness in your chest or your stomach or whatever. And then if we've gone through all of this trauma and experienced all these hard things in life, we feel that in our body, and then we automatically go into a response. We don't really have much control at that point. Like it's science that our brains don't work as well when we're in fight or flight mode. We don't really have choice. It's like if there's a bunch of logs rolling and you're in fight or flight response, you're going to keep just running straight in front of the logs instead of going to the right or the left to jump out of the way of them. And when we can do get nervous system safety and regulate that first, that's when we start to have choice again and we can start to actually choose those things. So that's really my goal right now is to like start bringing that to the world and help people approach healing from that aspect rather than I know all these things. I tried to get a better mindset. I tried to be positive and it's still not working. I still can't get it right. And so many people still blame themselves because they can't do better, and it's really not on them at all. We weren't taught to do better. We weren't taught that all of our emotions are actually a good thing and can be used to be good in our life. We just don't know how, like with anger. So often, especially I think women, definitely men too, because especially if you're like a bigger guy, people are probably like more scared if you have an explosive temper or something. So with anger, we're taught we can't be angry or what's not appropriate, but we're never taught what is appropriate or ways that we can use it. So we just got to start learning all of those things. It's not us that's messed up and can't get it right. It's that we are never given the tools to actually get it right. So that's really my big goal is to start giving people those tools and help them seeing that life can be different. They can wake up excited for every day.
I love that so much, and it's so relatable to, you know, if I think back to when I was in like probably middle school, I knew that the way that we were living wasn't right,
Hmm.
like I had figured it out when I had went over to somebody's house to spend the night and they were like sitting at the table and eating together and there wasn't like this aggressiveness and alcohol and drugs and I was like, initially it was like, this is weird. Like
Yeah.
normal was weird. I
Yeah.
remember I've told this story in my podcast a couple of times that I had a boyfriend when I was 13 years old and we had moved like 5 miles away. And on the weekend, he would actually ride his bike the 5 miles to come and spend like a Saturday with
Oh.
me. And it was so sweet, right? But he used to tell me all the time that I was beautiful. And it would make me feel like I want to throw up. It would make me
Hmm.
feel so like you would think he was saying something horrible to me.
Yeah.
So I had said it to my mom, I'm like, so and so is saying this to me, and I just don't like the way it makes me feel. And she said, well, yeah, because you haven't been raised to see that.
Yeah.
Your dad doesn't say that to me, but that is actually how a boy is supposed to treat a girl. Like if
Hmm.
he would have been saying derogatory things to me, I would have been more comfortable.
Yeah.
So it was like I started figuring these things out, but my goal was that I wanted to be like a psychiatrist or a counselor or a social worker because it was the same thought process you had. All of this can't be for nothing.
Yeah.
I have to be able to take the stuff that I've gone through in my life, figure out how to love myself, give myself grace, teach myself how to deal with things in a more appropriate way. Because for a long time, probably from the age of 15 until almost 30, I loved alcohol. That was my go-to, like
Hmm.
it's interesting because like how you talked about you didn't really get addicted to something because you didn't like losing control. And that
Hmm.
was my situation. Like I could drink it and I would be completely inebriated, but still be able to make a correct decision to protect myself if something happened that
Yeah.
shouldn't be happening. And it was
Hmm.
having to make sure I had control all of the time. But people would be like, "Oh, what's your drink? What's your favorite drink?" My favorite drink was any shot you put in front of me. Like I
Hmm.
was the shot girl, like just shots all of the time. That's just what I used to do. Obviously not a great way to deal with or handle anything, but this is what I was raised seeing. And I
Yep.
realized that it numbed part of the thing. And like you said, like an introvert, that liquid courage is something, isn't it?
Hmm.
Like you start drinking and all of a sudden you're the life of the party and you just got this whole new persona and this whole new personality. And I did that for a very long time. And life took over. And so there was no college, there was no social work, there was no anything. I realized I could write poetry. And that was a really great way for me to get things out on paper and like vent some of the
Hmm.
things that I was going through. And then I got into a toxic uh business relationship that was just really bad for my mental health and I went down the road of drinking again for a little while to try to deal with that. And then my dad got shot at work
Hmm.
and it was taking care of him and going through all of this stuff and just up until 2 years ago I was like what are we doing? Like what
Yeah.
are we doing with your life here? Like you're so good at playing things off. That's why nobody knew I was raised that way.
Hmm.
Nobody knew what I went through. I was this personable person. I was a happy person. Nobody would have thought Darcie was like her dad tried to break wicker furniture with her body. What? Like choked her so hard one time that she threw up. Like what? Like nobody would have ever thought that because I did so good at like everything in life is just great. And I was dying on the inside. So two
Mm-hmm.
years ago, I was like, what can I do that's actually going to rectify my past and not make me feel like all of that was for nothing and serve and help people? And that's where the podcast came into mind. And I was like, I think maybe if I like start a podcast and I start sharing things, maybe I'll learn some stuff about myself and help other people. And then I created my own toolbox of the things that
Mm-hmm.
help me. Like God is first and foremost in my life. Like I need to have that safety of knowing there's something else out there bigger than anything down here on earth. And He's so good and He wants so much good. Music
Mm-hmm.
is super huge. Getting outside is super huge. Showing myself grace. I mean,
Yeah.
3 days after my dad died, I came walking down our stairs and my husband was playing music. And that was like my dad's thing. And so he
Mm-hmm.
was playing like something from Led Zeppelin, I think. And my dad he loves Led Zeppelin. And I came down the stairs and I knew not to look in the direction of where my dad would be sitting in his recliner because he should be sitting there with his eyes
Yeah.
closed, kicking his foot around, pretending he's playing a guitar he used to do. And I didn't even look that way. And I walked out on the porch and I could feel this like, I am going to lose it and I'm going to start bawling. And I was like, no, you're fine. You are fine. Everything's
Mm-hmm.
okay. And immediately I was like, what the hell do you mean you're fine? You're not fine. Your dad
Yeah.
just died 3 days ago. Stop with this. I have, the superwoman Kate bullshit that you've been doing for
Mm-hmm.
so long. That is not normal. And that is not how you would coach somebody. You would never look at somebody and be like, your dad just died 3 days ago. All right, we'll move forward.
Yeah.
There's no way in the history of ever. So why are you doing that to yourself? So
Yep.
I just like let this like cry out that razzed my husband from all the way in the house over music. And he came running out and he's like, what happened? What happened? And I'm like, it's the music. And he's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't even think about it. And I said, no, it's not you. It's just what it is that I'm going through. And I'm teaching myself how to be more graceful with myself. I used to pride myself on I can handle this, I can do
Yep.
this, I'm so strong, nothing can stop me, I'm unstoppable. That's
Mm-hmm.
not a cool place to be because it's
Nope.
not even real. It's not
Yeah.
even real. It's this fake persona that you give to yourself as a safety because it
Yep.
makes you feel safe. Because if you put that superwoman cape away, now you're just as vulnerable as every other person you're standing shoulder to shoulder with. But
Mm-hmm.
what's going to separate you? It's going to be the tools that you're going to utilize when you're going through something else traumatic in your life. Because
Yep.
life is freaking hard. Things are
Yeah.
going to happen. I would be a fool to think that the worst thing that's ever happened is my dad getting shot and dying. I'm
Mm-hmm.
46 years old, and if God gives me another 30, 40 years on this earth, which between us, I almost kind of hope not because this earth is crazy. But I know stuff is going to happen in my life that's going to be hard.
Yeah.
So you need to be prepared with,
Mm-hmm.
okay, what tool am I going to use? What am I going to read? What am I going to listen to? What am I going to watch? How am I? The day that my dad died, I found him. Obviously, he lived here,
Yeah.
but I didn't realize that he was actually gone. And I tried giving him CPR until the paramedics got here.
Mm-hmm.
Horrible vision in my mind, right?
Yeah.
So for like 2 weeks in, I cannot stop for the life of me thinking about this. Like I
Mm-hmm.
cannot stop thinking you were breathing life into your dad's deceased body. He had been gone for like 7 hours already. The machine that he was hooked up to that was like a BiPAP said he was
Uh-huh.
still breathing 12% on his own. So I thought I had a shot and I was giving it everything I had.
Yeah.
So I couldn't stop listening to my worship. I'm listening to worship songs. I'm getting outside. I'm drinking water. I'm talking to my family about it, talking to my friends about it. None of these damn tools are working. And I'm like, oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so let's not panic. We got to figure something else out, right? So I started thinking about some of my favorite movies. I don't know why, but one of my favorite movies is Pretty Woman, which is so funny
Mm-hmm.
because I just brought that up to you before. But that's because it's one of my favorites. And I'm thinking about it, and there's so many different parts in there that stand out to me. Like Richard Gere pulls up and he's looking for directions, and she goes, sure, I can give you directions for $5. And he goes,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to pay you for directions. You can't charge me for directions. And she goes, I can do anything I want to, baby. I ain't lost. And I
Mm-hmm.
started thinking about that, or when Kit shows up at the hotel and her and Viv are talking, and Vivian's like, "Tell me, who does this work out for, Kit? Like, give me a name, give me a name." And Kit's like, "Oh, the pressure of a name, Cinda fucking Rella." Right?
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden now I'm not thinking about my dad anymore. Now I'm not just thinking about the words of the movie, I'm thinking about the scene of the
Mm-hmm.
movie, and I'm like, oh, I think I just created a new tool for myself that takes the visual of the trauma that
Mm-hmm.
I could not stop. Like, the first thing I'm thinking about when I wake up in the morning, throughout the day, sitting in quiet, it was just so horrible. And now, aside from talking about it, now I have not thought about that for a while. And if it ever pops up, that's what it is. Go to something that you can visually change, because
Mm-hmm.
what am I thinking about when it's that traumatic of a vision? If you're listening to a song, what are you picturing? Like song notes? Like sometimes you
Yeah.
can get moved by a song, but when it's that level of trauma, and I had to amp it up. So that's
Mm-hmm.
what this is. That's why the whole thing about the School of Hard Knocks is getting unstuck from trauma and
Yeah.
stuck in healing, because
Mm-hmm.
healing is forever.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
never going to be completely healed from anything that happened. We're just going to be able to assert ourselves in a different way to be able to perform better in our lives for ourselves, for our families, for our children, for people around us. And hopefully, like we talked about, giving other people the tools that can help them to be able to find
Mm-hmm.
success in their life too.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the things that has been like the biggest impact for me is really reframing things. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because if you can just like, okay, you lost your job. Well, that can kind of suck. Yeah. But also, it doesn't have to, because maybe that job sucked, or maybe you deserve better. Maybe you deserve more money. you know? So it's all about the way we look at things. And you can take that into simply like how you start your day when you're waking up in the morning. Are you like waking up and saying, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go to work. I don't want to do these things. Or are you waking up and saying, oh, today's going to be a good day? And just simply reframing the way you're looking at things can change so much because, like you were saying, there's not going to stop being problems. I mean, that's why this year, one of my goals is I want bigger problems
Mm-hmm.
because, like, the stress of whether I am doing some local event with 10, 15 people watching me, or I'm going to go get on a stage and speak in front of hundreds of people, it's the same.
Yeah.
So why not have the big problems? I'm done with the
Mm-hmm.
small ones. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really just about how you're going to approach those things and how you're going to try to handle them. And, do you want to stick with the small stuff? Because I mean, I really think that's when we can realize that we can change things, that we don't just have to be a victim of what happened to us, like we have. We don't just have to let that be something bad that happened. We've used it to create good things in our life. Then, sorry, my cat confused me for a minute. Um, but yeah, when we can see those things, then we start seeing that we have choice to create the rest of it and let the rest of it be different. And that's when we can be like, okay, well, yeah, I may have lost my job, but I'm going to find a better one, or I'm going to find something that I love doing, or where I'm going to be appreciated more or paid more, or something like that. And that has just been so powerful for my life. Like, um, my family has to eat at a free family dining hall sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
We lost food stamps, but the money hasn't quite caught up to where it needs to be yet, even though we're not getting that anymore. And, I could look at that as I'm not a good enough mom. I'm not providing for my kids like I need to. Oh, this sucks. I don't have enough food. But I don't see it that way. I see it as a blessing that I have a free family dining hall that is a 20-minute walk from my house. It is a family dining hall, so you have to be a family there. Like, I have no problem with any people. Like, I want to help all people, but when it comes to my kids, they're not going to be comfortable just going into a regular dining hall. There's a lot of homeless in Phoenix, and there's a lot of drugs.
Yeah.
So it's really appreciated that this place isn't sketchy. Like they have a whole center in the back set up for the kids where they can play games and get homework help and all this stuff. So I focus on all those things. The fact that the food's not horrible and that the people there are just so kind and loving and they don't make you feel like you're less than just because you need some help. Those are all the things I see now. Whereas, 3, 4 years ago, I would have just been like, oh, I'm not good enough. Like I shouldn't have to feed my kids this way. Like, yeah, it's annoying, and my mind has gone there. Don't get me wrong, but I was able to quickly come away from that. I was able to quickly be like, no, you're doing great. You're doing the things you need to do. This is a rough transitional period because you just restructured your entire business and you're doing things differently. Like, we're going to get past this and things are going to be great. Like, you're doing your mission and what you feel like you're called to do. Just keep it up. Everything's like, I have everything I need. It may not be the way I want it, but like everything I need is provided for because I'm continuing to do what I know I need to do. And when I just focus on that, it's so much easier.
That is so powerful. It's so interesting to me how many similarities that you and I have. I mean, when you're talking about this, all I'm hearing is the same thing that I preach all the time is life is about perception.
Mm-hmm.
It is how you are going to perceive the challenge because there's always going to be a challenge. But like you
Mm-hmm.
said, how are you starting your morning? It can be even as simple as if your alarm clock is going off, is it going off to that annoying ass meh, meh, meh noise?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you waking up to something that's gentle?
Yep.
Are you getting up and having a drink of water before you hammer down your coffee? Are you saying nice things to yourself? Are you opening the blinds to see sunshine or snow or whatever the heck is happening?
Mm-hmm.
This life is so much about healing yourself to get the right mindset. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter how many books you listen to, how many podcasts you listen to. If you're still like, oh yeah, Darcie and Sammie had this really great conversation, but that's not for me, your perception's so way off.
Yeah.
It's so way off because, yeah, people that are having this kind of conversation, this is going to impact the people that are like, hell yeah, those two
Mm-hmm.
girls know exactly what's going on. That's what I need to do. I knew I was looking for something bigger. Those are the people that are ready because you
Yeah.
can shift your mindset but not until you love yourself, not until you
Mm-hmm.
figured out these tools and how to help yourself, because then it's just noise. Then it's
Yeah.
just you hearing stuff that you're like, yeah, great, that's so great, it works for them. That could never work for me. No,
Yeah.
it's gonna work for you, but your perception's already off because you're saying it's not going to work for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that, first of all. And I get exactly what you're saying about staying true to your calling and what you know that you are being led to do. The day that
Mm-hmm.
my dad died, my husband and I lost our full-time income because we were his full-time caregivers.
Yeah.
So as much as I have gigs on the side, it definitely is not enough to carry the bills and things that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So my husband and I have been having to Spark, we've been having to Instacart. It's not the most awesome thing. It's
Yeah.
not like I'm like, oh, I'm so happy I'm a podcast host and a best-selling author that's out here delivering other people's groceries to them, right? Like it's a humbling thing to go
Yeah.
through it, but I'm not going back to corporate America.
Yeah.
I'm not stopping the podcast. I'm not stopping what I feel like God has led me to do because
Mm-hmm.
I have allowed this to get put on a back burner for so long in my life to serve things that didn't matter, to help
Yes.
people that I never should have been helping, to put
Yep.
myself into situations that I should have never been in the first place. So if Eric and I have to spark for a little while until the book takes off, until the podcast takes off, you know what I call that? I recall that my remember when era. I just
Mm-hmm.
posted the podcast that just launched today. It's called My Remember When Era. So if you think T Swizzle has a lot of different eras, you ain't met me yet. Because you will eventually, 2 years from now, I'll be looking at my husband going, remember when we had to spark and deliver Instacart and things like that in order to make money? And now look at what we've done.
Yep.
Everything can be your remember when, but again, that's a shift set and it's perception. I
Yep.
don't see myself doing things that I shouldn't be doing. I see myself doing what I've been called to do. And typically, when you're doing what you've been called to do, it's not going to be easy at first because
Yeah.
the universe, the Satan, whoever it is that you believe is rocking your world, is going to come in real hot to try to stop you from doing it.
Hmm.
So it's staying consistent and humbling yourself to say, this is where we are now, but this is going to be the remember when era when things
Yeah.
turn out the way that they're supposed to turn out.
Hmm. Yeah, because I really feel like if we don't do what we're supposed to do, like we're really messing up. Like there's so many people that specifically need our medicine and what we have or our story. And if we're not doing this and going out there and doing it, those people are the ones that miss out too. Not
Hmm.
just us and our families with like what we can create, but the people that our lives that we're meant to touch and like to just think about the fact that I could help someone go through the transformation I did and I didn't do that. That's heartbreaking. Like I never want to do that. So yeah, I think it's really important because you never even know like how much of an impact just the little things you do um will have on people. Like me and my husband decided to quit vaping nicotine. It's
Hmm.
one of the few things I still hadn't let go of. And everybody at his job quit. They're struggling. They've done
Yeah,
gone and
yeah.
bought some Black and Milds and went on a pack of cigarettes together. But all of them, there's three of them, including him, that ended up quitting. So just like the little shifts that you make in your life when you're starting to do that, you're healing and just move towards being a better version of yourself. Like that impacts so many people even on a small scale, when you take it to a level like doing a podcast and books and like really bringing it to the world, like there's so much transformation that's going to happen that needs to happen. Because, like you were saying a minute ago, if you don't know if you want to be around that much longer,
Yeah,
I get
yeah,
it. This
yeah.
world is really, really crazy. And I feel like at the same time, we're really lucky too
Hmm.
because people are actually starting to wake up to this stuff and see this stuff on like a mental health level and a spiritual level too. I feel like a lot of us are coming together and being like, okay, well, you may see God this way, and I see God a little bit
Yes.
differently, but ultimately we want love and we want the world to be a better place and a safer place and a healthier place. And that's what really matters. That's what it comes down to. I'm just really happy to finally see like that start coming together. People are really like coming together for the common good of people getting healthy lately.
Yes. Amen. I love that. And I'm seeing it too. I mean, it is just such a, we all say that we want peace, but
Hmm.
we are the peacemakers.
Yeah.
Like we can't, we all need to be coming together. It doesn't matter skin color, it doesn't matter job, it doesn't matter money, it doesn't matter past,
Hmm.
does none of that matters.
Yep.
Like I've always said that my whole entire life, if you were to cut us open, we're all gonna bleed the same color. It
Yep.
doesn't matter. I mean, get off your high horse of why you think none of that matters. If
Hmm.
we want peace, we all need to be coming together, and that's why I
Yeah.
love doing something like this because the stories that I've been sharing, some of them are so vastly different, but a lot of them have the same outcome because we're all just trying to get stuck in the healing of life.
Yeah.
We're all just trying to make it to the place of where we're kinder to each other, kinder to our neighbor, loving our children in ways that we didn't, get to be loved, and just learning how to be better people as a whole.
Hmm.
So I love that. This has been like incredible. I
Yeah.
This has been such a pleasure talking with you.
You too. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Well, let everybody know, how can they find you?
So the place I'm most active is Facebook, and I'll spell my name out so nobody mixes that up. It's Sammie Chaffin, SammieChaffin. And I'm on like all the social medias. I've got YouTube and Instagram too. But I'm just like the most active on Facebook. That's where you'll get the quickest response from me. And I'm actually about to launch a 4-week beta program that is going to be very, very low price. That's going to be like an introductory thing to my 12-week program that I'm gonna do. But yeah, I really wanted to like bring this out on a level that like anyone can afford, and I'm gonna run it a couple of times. So I'm really excited about that. It's probably only gonna be like $57, and it's gonna be 4 weeks of group coaching, and then it'll be an upgrade to do one-on-one coaching because I use something called NLP,
Hmm.
and it rewires the pattern. Well, and you talked about that. You love NLP.
I
So yeah, you
do.
know, so that I'm gonna offer like an add-on for sessions of doing that so I can go in and help people with belief changes and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm really excited because I just restructured all of it, and I'm really starting from, like I was saying earlier, a nervous system safety place first, really getting deep into making sure that people are out of survival mode before we start trying to force change and make them feel bad about themselves. So yeah, I'm really excited about all the things I've got coming. I also am going to be doing a free webinar like every week. So if things like this are of interest to you, just come follow me, because even if you're not looking to spend money with someone, you can get a lot of knowledge just from listening.
I love it so much. And, Sammy and I, like I said, we just met, but I'm going to tell you, I'm like already in my brain going, when do you want to hop on a plane and go down to Arizona so you and Sammy can get on the stage together? Like,
That
oh
would
my
be fun.
gosh.
Yes, that'd be fun. Aren't we both doing the same competition right now?
I'm going to be very, very, very honest with you. I tapped out. I have
Okay.
so much going on in my life that I just thought, you know what, if God wanted you to do it, he would have made the time for it. And
Yeah.
I just can't. I have my second volume, my second chapter is being published next month. I haven't even
Okay.
started writing it yet. I
Oh.
have to have it turned in by the 30th of this month. And I'm like, friend, pull it together. I've been integrating myself in church, and we fed the homeless on Saturday and volunteered at the special needs church. And, we're doing all of these things that are filling my soul in ways that I
Yeah.
am just like honored to be able to have the capacity to do it,
You,
So, ugh,
yeah, you're doing the important part. And by doing all of this now, when you do get to show up for something like that, it's just gonna blow everyone away because you've been
yeah,
doing all of this honest work beforehand. So I
yeah.
love that. That's beautiful.
Oh, well, thank you. And I am so thankful that we had this time together. Please go and find Sammy. Like, if you were not moved by her story, are you listening even? Because this has been incredible. What an incredible woman. What an incredible fighter. What an incredible example about what it truly looks like when you start showing up for yourself and you start healing yourself. Go and check her out. Give her a follow. Like I always say to you, healing is always possible when you're following the Lord. Don't give up on yourself. You are important. You are loved. There are so many people out here that love you. And I'm going to see you guys on the next episode.